Alright folks, so this is the Wahoo KICKR MOVE, Wahoo's latest and greatest direct drive bike trainer that adds 8 inches of forward and backward movement to their KICKR V6. Now I already did my full in-depth review of the Move where I went over how it all works, the ride feel, power accuracy, and all that good stuff, and I'll have that video linked down in the description below if you haven't checked that out already. But this is more of a follow-up video to go over how the KICKR MOVE works with their KICKR CLIMB accessory. And basically when I was filming my original review of the Move, the adapter that's needed to use the KICKR CLIMB with the KICKR MOVE wasn't quite out yet, but by the time that you watch this video, it should be shipping. So I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of how this whole thing works and how the movement from the Move feels with the grade simulation of the CLIMB. So the whole aim with the forward and backward movement of the Move is to provide a more realistic ride feel where it adds just a bit of give to the ride experience, and I have found that it adds a considerable amount of comfort for those longer rides where you're not in a completely static position the entire time. Now, is it a real ride feel? Well, I'd say that it's tough to replicate the feeling of riding outdoors, and there's really only so much we can do to simulate that experience, but I do think that fore and aft movement, as well as the subtle side-to-side movement that's built on the Move, does help it feel more natural than sitting on something that's completely static. Now, something that can add some realism or at least some interactivity to your indoor riding experience is a grade simulator like the KICKR CLIMB that I have right here, where this will actually adjust the angle of your bike to match the grades that you'll experience in your cycling training app like Zwift. So it's not only your trainer that increases resistance replicating gravity, but also changes the angle of your bike to match the hill. But with all the fore and aft movement of the Move and then adding all the up and down movement of the CLIMB, does it actually feel good and does it make it feel more real? So first off, to use the KICKR CLIMB with the KICKR MOVE, you'll need to have the CLIMB base adapter, which runs $50. So the CLIMB itself doesn't have enough built-in movement alone for it to count for the additional fore and aft movement that comes on the Move. So basically this adapter makes these work together. And this adapter is basically this little rubber shoe sort of thing that slips on the bottom of your CLIMB, and it has this rocker shape in the bottom that allows it to naturally move along with, well, the Move. And you'll also notice here too that it does have holes and vents on the bottom, so any sweat that may get in between the adapter and your CLIMB should just kind of funnel out the bottom. And then it does also just slip on just like a shoe, and there's also a little hole in the back for the power adapter. And for how it actually rides, I've been really enjoying this whole setup quite a bit. And I'm not just talking about the additional interactivity of the KICKR CLIMB along with the fore and aft movement of the Move. Even without the up and down changes of the KICKR CLIMB, like if I were to lock it out, I actually prefer using this whole setup versus a front wheel. And let me explain. So first off, when it comes to combining the fore and aft movement of the Move along with the angle adjustment of the CLIMB, for just like normal riding when you're in the saddle, it's fantastic. There's nothing strange about it at all, and it just feels like you'd probably expect, and any up and down movement from the CLIMB doesn't necessarily affect the fore and aft movement from the Move. It all feels very natural, even on quicker changes in gradient like what you'd experience on, let's say, some of the rollers in Titans Grove and Zwift. And then when it comes to getting out of the saddle and then staying out of the saddle for those steeper sustained climbs, you can see that the CLIMB just kind of subtly rocks a little bit back and forth going along with the movement of the Move. It's actually a lot more subtle than I thought it was going to be, and it's again a good experience. But when it comes to sprinting, this is where the fore and aft movement of the Move itself can feel a little bit odd, especially for quick and hard sprints, since your upper body is changing positions quickly, which makes the entire system kind of shift, probably more than what's desired. But since the Move does have a lockout, all you have to do is just reach down with your foot to lock it out for those hard sprint workouts, and you don't need to do anything with the CLIMB. It just locks out the movement and you can just lay down those watt bombs. But overall, when it comes to the simulation and interactivity of combining the KICKR CLIMB with the KICKR MOVE, I think this is a pretty fantastic experience and probably one of the more natural indoor riding setups. Again, there's really only so much we can do to replicate the outdoor experience, but I've been thoroughly enjoying this a lot. But even if we were to take the interactive element of the KICKR CLIMB out of the equation and lock it out so it doesn't move up and down, I actually tend to prefer this setup because it seems to change the dynamics of the forward and backward movement just a little bit versus a front wheel. So what I found is that using the CLIMB with the CLIMB adapter seems to slow down the fore and aft movement ever so slightly. It's super subtle, but when I went back and forth between the two setups just to feel the difference, what I think is happening is that the arc of using a wheel makes the Move a little faster, and it's more sensitive to changes in body position. Like for quick hard sprints, although there is still forward and backward movement using the CLIMB, I found sprints to be just slightly more stable with the CLIMB and the CLIMB adapter. So check out the difference here with these two sprints. So here's one with a front wheel, and notice how when I shift my body weight forward to start the sprint, there's a lot more movement that occurs. And once I'm in the sprint, it kind of settles in, but then when I end the sprint and sit back down, there's kind of this rocking motion that happens for a second or two before it stabilizes. And for comparison, here's some sprints using the climb, and the fore and aft movement seems to be reduced and less exaggerated than using a front wheel. So there seems to be something just kind of different about the arc on the climb adapter that better accounts for sudden movements, and there seems to be just less of an unnatural rocking motion that happens with quick changes in body position. And I think another thing that helps with sprints is that the climb adapter has a much wider base than a front wheel just sitting on a floor, so there's much more stability when it comes to the side-to-side movement that you have when you're wrenching on the handlebars with sprints. And one more thing that I kind of like about this whole setup is that with the wider base of the climb along with the increased weight versus a front wheel, there's less of a tendency of your handlebars turning. But as you can tell, I really like the experience of combining these two together, and it's definitely not weird, and in fact, I think it's very good, and it's probably one of the most dynamic and interactive indoor cycling setups that you can get. It's definitely not cheap, of course, but if you're looking for this level of interactivity, I think it's a great option. Anyhow, if you have any questions about this setup that I didn't cover in the video, feel free to drop a comment down in the comment section down below. And on your way down there, if you found the information in this video useful, do me a favor and also hit that like button, and also subscribe to the channel for plenty more cycling content just like this that's coming soon. Thanks so much for watching, happy riding, and we will see you in the next video.